Rise and shine, everyone. It is Miss Bree, your Black therapist, reporting to you live from Living in Faith Everyday Counseling. I thank you so much for tuning in today. I am just a messenger, and I do not get to pick and choose what you do with the message, but I do hope that the message I have for you today is informing to you and it encourages you to implement being more self aware by making sure that you increase your knowledge in regards to the things that you go through in your life. So, I wanted to discuss trauma today and talk about how trauma affects your brain. You have three different parts of the brain that trauma will impact, and I wanted to kind of break that down. I will be looking at the guide that I have here, and I will also be showing it. So for those ones that are visual learners, so that way you will be able to just pause the screen and look over it yourself. Because I'm all about giving you the information, right, and also making sure that you are able to see a hard copy of what that information looks like when I'm discussing something that is informative. So in this manner anyway. So your prefrontal cortex, that's going to be the front of your brain. And it manages rational thinking and behavior. The key word is rational. A lot of us have irrational thinking and behaviors because of the trauma that we've been through. And we haven't really dealt with that trauma. So we're going to be irrational in those moments because we've learned to avoid the trauma we've been through rather than trying to really grow through that trauma. And why I say grow is because when you are thinking, when you are pouring the necessary information and necessary experiences into your brain, you create new memories and you create a more high susceptibility to being informed by your memories rather than being controlled by them. If you've been through traumatic experiences, it's important to create new positive experiences to be able to combat those things. So, the prefrontal cortex also regulates emotions that come from the amygdala, which is another part of the brain that is also impacted by trauma. Okay, like fear responses. Trauma can weaken signals from this area, which reduces rational thinking and allows fear to take over. Fear is a common emotion that we all feel, and it is a necessary emotion. It becomes a problem when you don't know how to, not even you, but your brain don't know how to cipher between this situation being an appropriate situation to fear or this situation not being an appropriate situation to fear, because the feelings and the memories attached to that fear has not been processed properly. The hippocampus is also another part of the brain that is impacted by trauma, and that is associated with your memory and your learning. Trauma can cause your hippocampus to shrink. Okay, it can cause your hippocampus to shrink. The brain is a muscle, it has the ability to grow or it has the ability to shrink in certain areas, and therefore, when there's shrinking that's happening, there's malfunctioning that tends to start happening in that same area as well. So, the hippocampus has to do with your memory and learning. Trauma can cause it to shrink, and then therefore it becomes hard for you to differentiate the past and the present. Your brain becomes more susceptible to considering one situation being the same as another situation, and therefore the responses that you have are going to be similar. So if you avoided this particular situation, you have those feelings and those thoughts that come in that's similar, because the new situation is similar to that one. You're going to tend to respond to that situation in the same manner that you did with this one, right? So you avoided this one, you're going to avoid this one, and therefore you're not learning anything, and therefore you become more highly susceptible you become more highly susceptible to developing a avoidant attachment style when it comes to certain situations and even people. So the next part of the brain is the amygdala. The amygdala is a collection of cells near the base of the brain. This particular portion is your emotional response center. Okay? Trauma causes the amygdala to become more active and increases fear when exposed to triggers. This is why it is so important for us to make sure that we are pouring into ourselves. Knowledge is power. When you have fear, a lot of fear has to do with the unknown. A lot of fear, it has to do with uncertainty. So how do you combat uncertainty? First of all, by knowledge, learning. Your brain has the ability to grow. The more that you're able to know regarding situations, the more that you're able to have options to deal with situations. But if you have no options and you feel like your back is against the wall, you're going to become overstimulated, overwhelmed, worried, and just in a world of chaos, because that's literally what you have going on in your body. So what's in you is going to come out of you. It's important that we make sure that we work on ourselves. Let me show the picture so you guys can see and be able to pause the screen for those of you that want to take a look at it for yourself. Take some time and pause it and read over it yourself. I thank you so much if you did take time to pause it and maybe even screenshot it so you can look over it for yourself, because one thing about it, and two things for sure, we all have a brain. And your brain is your responsibility. You have to be intentional about helping yourself to be at your best. A lot of things in life have to do with your mind first. Your mindset is important. It is important how you take care of your mind. We be willing to go to the doctor to get our physical things done. We be willing to go get bodies done, but you getting your body done, getting your health and your physical health intact, that's a good thing. But what about your mind? What are you doing to work on your mind? How are you helping your mind? You still got a brain that needs to be taken care of too. A lot of us deal with so many things because we lack knowledge. We lack the necessary options to help us to be at our best. And that's when, you have therapists that come into play, and even just a trusted individual that done been through some life situations who can really give you some guidance. Those individuals are important. It's a lot of stigma behind mental health, but the reason I'm in this field is because of the knowledge that I'm able to obtain. Even if I'm not in the field, it's still my responsibility. I don't just work with people because I haven't worked on myself. I work with individuals because I know what it takes to work on yourself. I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I'm still having to do my daily effort into myself. So, yeah. Ain't no excuse. Your trauma is not an excuse for you not to make sure that you be intentional about your healing. Sometimes we don't want to forgive people. A lot of times we want to walk around with hatred in our heart because we feel like we letting somebody off the hook. Honey, you are not letting nobody off the hook. You are releasing yourself of the imprisonment that your trauma can put you in if you let it. And some of y'all may not receive this, and that's okay. Because you got to be in a place sometimes. Things happen in conditions. Sometimes when we get to our worst, that's when we're willing. Unfortunately, sometimes when we get to our worst, that's when we become more willing. We become more open and available to listen, to hear, to receive. And that's just the truth. And when I say us, that's when we become willing. Fear don't show up the same way that it may show up for another group of individuals. When it comes to us, when it comes to us, we be ready to fight when it comes to our fear. A lot of times we show up ready to, we want to fight physically. We tend to want to do that. When we need to be fighting mentally. We need to be pouring things into ourselves that's going to help us to be better. Your mind is important. It's a terrible thing to waste. It's a terrible thing to just let go any kind of way. We have to work on ourselves. Let me lean in a little bit because I really want you to understand that your mindset is so important and you deserve to give yourself your best. People will be people. You understand me? They gonna do what they gonna do. But what is you gonna choose to do? When it comes to how you heal, when it comes to how you take care of yourself, it's important that you do what's necessary to help yourself. It ain't just about an appearance thing where I show up and I look good and I smell good, but on the inside, it's chaotic. It's turmoil going on. It's hatred going on. It's a lot of ugliness going on, and a lot of hurt and pain. We carry that with us. It don't matter how much makeup you put on your face. It don't matter how many designer bags, whatever. It don't matter how many of these things you collect. It does not change the fact that your pain is still there and it's real. And you talking to yourself in the worst way, even when you're around a group of people. Loving yourself requires you to deny yourself. Loving yourself requires you to deny yourself of what used to be and be willing to be open to what you want it to be. It ain't just about a look for me. It's about what I don't see. What I don't see. You can lie to me all day long and tell me everything that's good, but what about what's real? What about what's really working inside of you? What's really working in your heart and in your mind? Is they in sync? Is it healthy? Is it healthy? A lot of times it ain't. And that's why it's so important that you pay attention to yourself. You be aware of yourself. When I talk about self-love, I'm not talking about from a place of being conceited and thinking you're better than somebody. I'm talking about self-love by giving your things all the things that wasn't given to you. The mistreatment. Misusing, abusing. It's so important because, you can come from a traumatic situation. You can be out of it. You could be living a whole new life, but your brain is still operating under the guidelines of trauma. Your brain is still operating under those guidelines. So that how you used to be treated, whether it be in your childhood or even in your adulthood, that abuse that you experienced, was somebody talking to you any kind of way, treating you any kind of way, you doing it to yourself now. And don't even realize it. Won't even take time to smell the flowers. Won't even take time to acknowledge the things that you're thankful for in your life because you feel like you can't. You feel like it ain't worth it. There's so much more I can say, but it's not about a multitude of words. It's about the significance of the words that I have to say to you. And I hope that everything that I'm saying, that you can feel what I'm saying and understand that this is serious. You are a real person, and you are a priority and not an option. You deserve to give yourself better than what you may have been given. We didn't get to choose the families that we born into. We don't get to choose some of the things that we learned as a child, because whether we want to or not, our brain is going to think on a consistent basis. Sometimes you don't even have to be paying attention, and your brain is still recording. It's still recording what's going on around you. Even if you're trying to disassociate from the situation, your brain's still working. And because we didn't get to pick and choose those things, we didn't get to pick and choose what kind of brain was given to us. So that's why it's so important that we work with what we got and we try to give it better. Pour into it. Memories can be replaced with better memories. So then when you have a response in a situation, you have some options that you can go to in your own mind and say, you know what, this would be a better way of doing things. And that's how you know then at that point that your brain and your memories are informing you and not controlling you. And then we have the audacity to say that that's just how she is, that's just how he is. That don't make it okay. Your trauma is not an excuse for you to ignore yourself and for you to avoid yourself. I truly hope that this message is received in love. And I hope that it allows you to be intentional about how you take care of your well-being, mentally and physically and emotionally and spiritually. Let's be intentional. Be encouraged, be intentional, and live your life with purpose. You don't have to wait for a purpose. Live with purpose. Wake up looking to have a good day. Wake up looking to be better and apply the knowledge by obtaining